What if I told you, after giving 35 years of your life to one job, after sacrificing your health, your sleep, your dreams, the day you finally retire, life decides to crush you? Sounds unfair, right? But that's exactly what happened to him. He wasn't a rich man, just an ordinary American father who believed in hard work. For years, he waited for retirement like it was his reward, the one golden chapter where he could finally breathe. He had plans, a little garden in the backyard, coffee with his wife in the mornings, maybe helping his son with college dreams. Simple, honest plans. And when that pension check arrived for the first time, he felt safe. Safe that the storm was finally over. But he had no idea. The real storm hadn't even begun.
At first, retirement felt like heaven. No alarms, no boss, no deadlines. Just freedom. He would wake up, stretch his back, sip his coffee, and think, "This is the life I earned." His wife started dreaming too. She whispered one night, "Now that you're free, let's travel. Just you and me. Maybe Florida, maybe Paris." He smiled, but deep down, he was worried. Travel costs money. Hospital bills come without warning, and pensions? They're never as big as they look. But he pushed the fear aside. He thought, "I've worked too hard to live in fear. Things will be fine." If only he knew. How quickly can life steal everything you built in 35 years? Sometimes, just in one night. It was an ordinary evening. He had gone out for groceries, carrying 2 small bags. The road was quiet. The air was cold. He was just steps away from home when... Screech! Tires screamed, headlights blinded him, and in that split second, everything turned black. When he opened his eyes, he was lying on the asphalt, pain shooting through his body, blood dripping down his forehead, voices around him shouting, "Call 911, hurry!" The siren of the ambulance cut through the silence of the night. His wife rushed to the hospital, her hands shaking. His son followed close, his heart racing. Minutes felt like hours as the doctors took him inside. Finally, the surgeon came out. His words were cold, heavy, unforgettable. "He's alive, but the injuries are severe, and the treatment will be long and expensive." Expensive. That single word crushed them. What would you do if the man who raised you is fighting for his life and you realize you don't have enough to save him? The family thought they were ready. After all, wasn't pension supposed to protect them? But the bills started piling up faster than they could breathe. Hospital charges, medicine costs, scans, surgery. And then came the biggest blow. Their health insurance company refused to release the claim. They said the paperwork wasn't updated. One technical error, and suddenly, years of premium meant nothing. The wife cried silently in the hospital corridor. The son shouted at the insurance desk, but no one cared. To them, it was just another file. That night, the son checked his father's wallet. Only a few dollars. He checked the credit card. Declined. He logged into the bank account. Balance near zero. For the first time, he realized retirement is not freedom. Retirement is war. A war with bills, with insurance companies, with a system that doesn't care if you live or die. They thought retirement would be peace. Instead, it became a prison. But the real question is, how far will the family go to fight for the man who gave them everything? That night, lying on the hospital bed with tubes all around him, the father whispered to his son, his voice weak but sharp. "Don't make the mistake I made. Don't live thinking tomorrow will take care of itself. Promise me you'll fight smarter than I did." Tears rolled down the son's eyes. He nodded, but inside he was broken. Because he knew this was just the beginning. Imagine watching the person who raised you, the one who worked day and night to give you a better life, lying helpless in a hospital bed. Every beep of the monitor, every movement of the nurses, it feels like your heart is breaking in real time. That was their reality now. The accident wasn't just a sudden twist. It was a tidal wave that swallowed their entire life. His father's injuries were severe. Broken bones, internal bleeding, constant pain. The doctors were clear. Treatment would be complicated and expensive. Very expensive. The family looked at each other, fear in their eyes. How were they going to pay for this? Pension money could only cover so much, and the hospital bills were piling up by the hour. And then came the blow that no one saw coming. They had health insurance, a safety net they believed would protect them. But reality is cruel. The insurance company refused the claim. One tiny technicality, one missing document, one signature. And suddenly, years of paying premiums meant nothing. The son slammed his fist on the counter, shouting, "How can you deny this? My father's life is at stake!" The clerk replied calmly, coldly, "Sir, these are the rules. We cannot approve your claim without complete documentation." The son felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't just bureaucracy. This was life and death. What would you do if the system that's supposed to protect you turns its back at the worst possible moment? Days passed. Nights passed. Every beep, every cry from another patient reminded them of their helplessness. He watched his father struggle to even sit up. His mother tried to stay strong, but her trembling hands told a different story. The son spent sleepless nights calculating every possible way to gather money. The hospital bills were relentless. Room charges, medicine, surgery, doctor consultations. Every single day the numbers grew higher. They considered every option: loans, borrowing from friends, selling some of their belongings, but nothing was enough. And the insurance company still refused. Imagine staring at a screen showing "claim denied" in bold red letters while your father lies in pain. The weight of helplessness crushing you from all sides. As days turned into a week, tension in the house grew. Arguments flared. Words were spoken that couldn't be taken back. "Why didn't you check the paperwork sooner?" his mother asked, voice quivering. "I did everything I could," the son snapped back. Even small things, like who would be at the hospital that night, became a battleground. But amid all this chaos, there was one constant thought: father must survive. And so they turned to the law. The son contacted a lawyer. "We have to fight this," he said. "We can't let them ignore us while he suffers." The lawyer explained the process. Court cases are slow. Insurance companies are powerful. But sometimes persistence can bend even the harshest system. The son felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could win. But he also knew this battle could drag on for months, possibly years. The courtroom would decide whether their father lives comfortably or continues to suffer, and every second that passes is another second of pain.
Now, the family faced two fronts. Hospital bills that kept growing faster than their ability to pay. An insurance company that refused to recognize their father's suffering. Every day was a test of patience, strength, and love. The son held his father's hand one evening and whispered, "Don't worry, Dad. I'll fight for you, no matter what it takes." And in that moment he realized this was more than a legal battle. This was survival.
Imagine working your entire life, saving every penny, sacrificing every comfort, only to realize that the money you thought would protect you now feels like sand slipping through your fingers. That was their reality now. The hospital bills were stacking higher than ever, and the pension money, once a symbol of security, was dwindling fast. Every month they watched the numbers drop. The son tried to calculate, strategize, plan, but there was no way to keep up with the spiraling costs. It was more than just money. It was their father's life. Every delay, every unpaid bill, every late fee felt like a threat to the man who had given them everything. The father's pension, which once felt like a cushion, was now just a small lifeline. Room charges, surgeries, medication, daily care, it was all eating away at the savings faster than anyone could imagine. How could this be? I worked for decades. I planned for this moment, and still it isn't enough, he whispered to his son one night. The son felt a mix of fear, anger, and helplessness. He had never imagined that saving and planning would still leave them at the mercy of circumstances they couldn't control. And just when they thought things couldn't get worse, the credit card bills started arriving, one after another. Declined transactions, maximum limits reached. Suddenly, they realized there was no safety net left. Every swipe, every payment attempt, every online purchase, all declined. The son logged in to check the balances. Zero. Nothing. A pit opened in his stomach. He couldn't even order the necessary medicine without worrying if it would go through. Every small need became a battle. And worse, the looming thought haunted him. What if they couldn't even keep a roof over their heads? With bills piling and credit cards maxed out, the family had no choice. They had to consider selling their home, the very place that held decades of memories. The son and his mother walked through each room silently. Bedrooms, kitchen, living room. Each corner held a story. And now it was all going to be sold. We worked so hard to build this, and now we have to give it away, his mother whispered, tears streaming down her face. The son felt a surge of guilt. Maybe if I had done something sooner, maybe if I had checked the insurance documents more carefully, maybe... The walls that once held their happiness now echoed with fear and uncertainty. Selling the house could save his father's life, but at what cost? Arguments flared. Everyone was on edge. The mother blamed herself. The son blamed himself. The father, weak and in pain, felt the weight of his family's struggles crush him. Even small decisions became battles. Who would speak to the realtor? Who would handle the bank? How could they make choices when every option felt like a loss? And amid all this, the hospital bills continued to rise like an unstoppable tide threatening to sweep them away. They had survived decades of life's challenges, but now it seemed as though the very system they trusted, the pension, the insurance, the banks, had turned against them. Could they survive this storm? That night, the family sat together in silence. The father held his son's hand, a faint smile on his face despite the pain. "I don't know how this will end," he said softly, "but remember, family is stronger than money, stronger than fear. We'll face this together." And in that moment, the son realized survival wasn't just about money. It was about courage, resilience, and never giving up, even when the world seemed determined to break them. The fight wasn't over, far from it, but at least now they were ready to face whatever came next.
Imagine chasing a dream you worked years to build, only to have life demand you sacrifice it for someone else. The job you love, the career you fought for. Suddenly, all of it feels like a luxury you can't afford. That's exactly what the son faced now. He had a digital marketing job, a job he loved, a job that promised a future, stability, and independence. It wasn't easy getting there. Late nights, online courses, endless networking. He had invested years into building this career. But life had other plans. His father's accident, the mounting hospital bills, the insurance battle, the pension depletion, and the looming threat of losing their home. All these forced him to make a choice. Stay in his career and risk his father's life, or leave the job and fight for his family's survival. It wasn't even a question. Family came first. He walked into his manager's office one morning. The walls felt smaller, the air heavier. I need to resign," he said, his voice barely steady. "It's personal, family emergency." The manager nodded, understanding but disappointed. A brilliant employee leaving at such a critical time. The son felt a pang of guilt. Every opportunity he had earned now seemed like it slipped through his fingers. Walking out of the office for the last time, he realized this wasn't just a career pause. It was a sacrifice that could change his future forever. Sometimes life doesn't let you choose between right and wrong. It only gives survival and sacrifice, and you have to pick one. With his career on hold, he focused on another path: education loans. He believed that investing in knowledge could still secure a better future. But even this was complicated. Banks required documentation, co-signers, and proof of ability to repay. Every application he submitted was met with delays, rejections, and endless phone calls. He spent nights in front of his laptop, scanning documents, emailing banks, and filling forms. The pressure was immense. Not only did he have to secure funds for his own education, but he also had to ensure the family's survival while his father was in the hospital. Every rejected loan application felt like a punch to the gut. How do you keep fighting when the system itself seems stacked against you? The weight of responsibility pressed down on him. His friends were moving forward in life, building careers, buying homes, planning vacations. Meanwhile, he was stuck between hospital corridors, loan applications, and the constant fear that his father's health might decline any day. Some nights he would sit on the empty couch, staring at the ceiling, and silently ask himself, "Am I making the right choice? Is giving up my dream really worth it?" Even when he smiled at his father's jokes, even when he reassured his mother, there was a gnawing doubt inside, a fear that his sacrifices might never pay off. Despite the chaos, he became the anchor of the family. He coordinated with doctors, checked bills, made arrangements for the house, and still tried to push through the loan applications. Every small victory, an approved form, a small payment from a relative, a doctor giving an extension, felt like a miracle. But every setback hit harder than before. In the middle of fear, exhaustion, and endless obstacles, he realized something terrifying. The world doesn't wait for anyone. If he failed, it wasn't just his dream at stake. It was his father's life, his mother's safety, their home, their future. That night, after putting his father to sleep in the hospital bed, he sat quietly in the waiting area, papers scattered around him. He whispered to himself, "I will find a way. I don't know how yet, but I will not let this family fall apart. Not now, not ever." He didn't know it yet, but this struggle between dreams deferred and responsibilities forced would define the rest of his life. It was the moment where survival, love, and sacrifice intertwined, and the real battle had only just begun.
Imagine sitting in a courtroom, watching a system that's supposed to protect you refuse to acknowledge your suffering. Your father's life hangs in the balance, and the people who hold the power treat it like paperwork, not a life. That was their reality. The insurance company wasn't budging. Hospital bills were piling, and now the family had to confront the legal world, cold, slow, and unforgiving. The son hired a lawyer, a sharp, experienced woman who promised to fight. But even she warned, cases like these take time, months, maybe even years. Don't expect a quick win. The courtroom was intimidating. The walls tall, the lights harsh, the air heavy with tension. Lawyers in suits shuffled papers, clerks moved briskly, and judges sat silently, evaluating every word before them. The son felt small, but he had to stand tall, not for himself, but for his father. The father, weak from the accident and medical treatments, looked up at him and whispered, "You're my strength now. Don't falter." The son nodded. He didn't realize it yet, but courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward despite it. Every second in that courtroom felt like a countdown to losing everything if the decision went against them. The insurance lawyers argued with precision, technicalities, clauses, missing signatures. They spoke coldly, mechanically, as if their words could erase the human pain in front of them. The son felt his stomach churn. Each objection, each counterpoint, each delay felt personal. They weren't just fighting for money. They were fighting for life, for dignity, for survival. His father watched silently, nodding slightly whenever the son met his eyes. That small gesture reminded him giving up was not an option. The system can be merciless, But sometimes, persistence can turn the tide if you dare to fight long enough. Days in court stretched into weeks. The son juggled hospital visits, loan applications, and court proceedings. He barely slept. Meals were skipped. Friends reached out offering help, but he could only nod. There was too much at stake to pause. The mother cried at home every night, worried that the stress would take her son, too. The father, once so strong, was now a shadow of himself, yet he refused to give up hope. The courtroom was more than a place of law. It had become a battlefield of emotion, resilience, and sheer willpower. Every day, every hearing, every argument, one wrong step and they could lose everything. Could they survive the system that seemed determined to crush them? One afternoon, the lawyer finally brought news. We found a loophole, a clause in the policy that was overlooked. If we push this, your father might get the claim approved. Relief. Finally, a glimpse of hope. But even then, they knew it wouldn't be simple. Fighting bureaucracy takes patience, persistence, and sometimes sacrifices that weigh heavier than any hospital bill. The son looked at his father and said softly, "We're not done yet, Dad, but we're getting there." The father smiled weakly, his voice barely audible. "You've already done more than I could have imagined. Just don't stop." And so the battle continued. Court dates, document submissions, tense meetings with lawyers, and endless phone calls. Every moment felt critical. The family had learned that life doesn't pause for tragedy. It doesn't wait for readiness. You fight, you persist, you survive. And this was only the beginning, because the struggle wasn't just for money or papers. It was for dignity, for life, for the family that refused to give up.
When life knocks you down, it's not just the pain that weighs you, it's the uncertainty. Every dollar, every bill, every loan application becomes a battle, and in that battle, one mistake can cost everything. For the son, this was the reality. Hospital bills were growing, pension money was almost gone, and credit cards were maxed out. They couldn't rely on luck or hope anymore. It was time to act, to fight the storm with every ounce of strategy they could muster. He began by organizing every piece of financial information: pension statements, credit card bills, loan documents, insurance policies, hospital invoices. Every paper mattered. "Numbers don't lie," he whispered to himself. "If I can understand them, maybe I can control them." It wasn't just math, it was survival. Every decision carried consequences that could affect his father's life, his mother's peace of mind, and their home. Alongside the hospital struggle, he needed funds for his own education. He had paused his digital marketing career, but he still believed in his future. Applying for education loans was a maze. Forms were confusing, banks were slow, and approvals were uncertain. Each rejection felt like another weight added to his shoulders. But he persevered. He contacted multiple banks, explained his family situation, submitted documents repeatedly, and even approached private lenders when traditional banks refused. Every denial felt personal. Every delay was a reminder: life doesn't care about your plans, only your persistence. Meanwhile, credit card debt loomed like a shadow. Interest rates climbed. Minimum payments became impossible. He had to get creative, consolidating debts, negotiating with banks, cutting every unnecessary expense, and prioritizing hospital bills over everything else. He spent nights analyzing which debts to pay first, how to prevent late fees, and how to make every remaining dollar last. Every decision was a choice between survival and collapse. One wrong step, one missed payment, and they could lose everything: the house, the dignity, the family's future, all hanging by a thread. The looming decision of selling the house continued to haunt them. They loved that home. It held memories, laughter, and dreams, but reality left them no choice. After long discussions, they decided to list the property as a last resort. The son felt a mix of guilt, anger, and sadness. It was painful to even think about it. This house isn't just walls and furniture. It's our life, our story. But right now, survival comes first. Despite all the chaos, they found small victories. One bank approved a partial education loan. A distant relative contributed a small sum. A temporary hospital payment plan bought them some breathing room. These small wins, though limited, kept them going. Each one was a spark of hope in a dark storm. In the middle of fear and uncertainty, hope is fragile, but sometimes it's all you need to keep fighting. By the end of this chapter, the family had learned one crucial lesson. Survival requires strategy, courage, and relentless perseverance. The son, exhausted but determined, sat in the quiet of the night and whispered, "We can survive this. I don't know how yet, but we will. We have to." And with that determination, they prepared for the next battle, one that would decide their father's health, their family's stability, and the chance for a future where dreams weren't completely sacrificed.
Recovery isn't just physical. Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones that happen after the immediate danger is over, when the world expects you to move forward, but your body and mind are still broken. For the father, this was the reality. Weeks in the hospital, surgeries, and endless treatments had left him weak, dependent, and frustrated. Yet he survived. But surviving wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of a new set of challenges. The day finally came when doctors said he could go home. The family was ecstatic. Finally, a sense of normalcy, a chance to rebuild life. But stepping into the house, he realized that things weren't as simple as they seemed. Moving around was difficult. Stairs were a challenge. Simple tasks like cooking or showering required assistance. I thought being home would be easy. I didn't realize life would feel like another hospital floor. Even as he recovered, the hospital bills didn't stop. Follow-up treatments, medications, and therapy sessions kept adding to the already mounting debt. The son continued juggling his responsibilities: education loans, credit card management, and ensuring that every dollar was spent wisely. Every decision carried weight, and every misstep could push them closer to financial collapse. Imagine the relief of returning home, only to realize that every moment of comfort comes with the weight of impossible decisions. Physical therapy became the father's new reality. Every movement was painful, yet essential. The son often sat beside him during exercises, holding his hand, encouraging him. "You can do this, Dad, one step at a time," he said, trying to mask his own exhaustion. The father smiled weakly, pushing through the pain, but every day reminded them of how fragile life could be. A single fall, a missed medication, or a delayed therapy session could undo weeks of progress. The family learned quickly that recovery and finances were intertwined. Every dollar spent on therapy meant less for loan repayments. Every late payment on credit cards meant stress compounded with the fear of losing the house. Decisions became constant dilemmas. Should they buy a new medical device? Should they prioritize loan interest? Should they sell another possession? In a life where every choice is a trade-off, how do you decide which risk is worth taking and which sacrifice is too high? The emotional toll was relentless. The mother worried about the father's health, the son worried about the future, and the father worried about being a burden. "I feel useless," the father admitted one night. "I wanted to be the protector. Now I feel like the problem." The son held his father's hand. "You are not a problem, Dad. You gave us everything. Now it's our turn to give back." Even in their darkest moments, this exchange reminded them that love and resilience can sometimes carry more weight than money. They had survived accidents, hospital battles, financial crises, but the question remained, could they truly rebuild without losing themselves in the process? By the end of this chapter, the family understood a hard truth. Survival is not about avoiding challenges. It's about facing them together, learning, adapting, and never letting fear dictate your choices. The father, though weak, smiled at his family and whispered, "We've been through hell, but we're still here. And as long as we are together, we can face anything." The son nodded in determination in his eyes, knowing the journey wasn't over. It was just entering a new phase, one where hope and strategy would be their weapons.
Sometimes, survival demands sacrifices that cut deeper than any injury or debt. Sometimes, the only way forward is to give up what you love most, even your home. For the family, the decision was agonizing. Selling their house was not just about money. It was about memories. Birthdays celebrated in the living room, late-night talks in the kitchen, family dinners, laughter echoing through the halls. All of it tied to the four walls they had called home for decades. But reality left them no choice. The mounting hospital bills, depleted pension, and failed insurance claims meant they had to act. Their father's survival depended on it. The son and his mother sat down to make a plan. They contacted a realtor, discussed prices, prepared the property for sale. Every step was painful. "I can't believe we're doing this," his mother whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "This house, it's our life." The son tried to stay strong. "Mom, we don't have a choice. Dad needs treatment and we need money. We'll get through this, together." Even with practical reasoning, the emotional weight was suffocating. Walking through your own home for the last time, knowing soon it won't be yours, how do you say goodbye to a lifetime of memories? As they began the selling process, neighbors came by, curious about the for sale sign. Friends offered help, but every conversation reminded them of the harsh reality. Life doesn't wait for grief or sentimentality. The son had to stay focused. He dealt with buyers, paperwork, inspections, and negotiations while still managing hospital bills, education loan applications, and credit card concerns. It's like juggling fire. One mistake and everything could burn. The house finally had a buyer. The relief should have felt comforting. Instead, it felt hollow. "This money will save Dad, but it's still hard to let go," the son admitted, looking around the emptying rooms. The father, though recovering, sensed the family's pain. He held their hands and said, "It's just a house. What matters is that we are together, and we survive." His words offered some solace, but they couldn't erase the ache of letting go. Even when survival is at stake, letting go of what you love feels like losing a part of yourself. With the sale completed, the family finally had a breathing room. Hospital bills could be paid, therapy sessions continued, and remaining funds helped manage day-to-day expenses. The son recalculated finances, prioritized payments, and even revisited education loan options. Slowly, things began to stabilize, but the sense of vulnerability never left them. Every dollar spent reminded them how fragile their situation had been and could still become. Emotionally, the family had changed. They realized that home isn't just bricks and walls, it's the people inside, the love and resilience they shared. The father, now able to move with more ease, would sit in the living room with his son and wife, discussing recovery progress, budgeting strategies, and long-term plans. "We've lost a house, but we've gained something stronger," he said one evening. "We've gained perspective, and we've learned to fight together." The house was gone, but the fight was far from over. Could they maintain hope,
health, and stability in a world that had already taken so much from them? By the end of this chapter, the family understood that survival often comes at a price, and sometimes the sacrifices are deeply personal. The son looked at his father and whispered, "Dad, we'll make it through. We've already survived hell. Together. Now we just have to keep going." The father smiled, weak but proud. "That's all I ever wanted, for you to keep fighting."
Imagine putting your dreams on hold for years, sacrificing everything for family, and then standing at the crossroads where the world tells you it's time to rebuild. For the son, that moment had finally arrived. The house was sold. The father was gradually recovering. The hospital bills were under control, and small victories had reminded them that life could be navigated step by step. Now it was time to reclaim a future that had been paused. Digital marketing had always been his passion. Even during the crisis, he had kept an eye on the industry, studying trends, skills, and new opportunities. Now he was ready to re-enter the field, but differently. Instead of full-time work, he explored flexible options, freelancing, consulting, and part-time positions, allowing him to balance career and family obligations. "I can't afford to leave Dad alone again," he thought, "but I also can't let my future die here." He reached out to former colleagues, built an online portfolio, and pitched small projects to companies. Slowly, opportunities started coming in. Each project was a test. Deadlines clashed with hospital visits. Client calls overlapped with loan paperwork. Every day felt like juggling knives. One wrong move and chaos could return. Imagine walking a tightrope over a pit of uncertainty. Every step matters, and one slip could unravel everything you fought for. To maintain balance, he created a strict schedule. Mornings were for the father's therapy and medication. Afternoons were for digital marketing projects. Evenings were dedicated to budgeting, bills, and loan follow-ups. It wasn't easy. Exhaustion was constant. Sleep was minimal, and stress weighed heavily on his shoulders. Yet each small success, a completed project, a successful client pitch, a timely bill payment, reminded him that he could manage both responsibilities. The line between success and failure is thinner than you think. Can one person shoulder so much and still stay standing? Alongside career rebuilding, the family began long-term planning. Loan educations were organized to avoid further financial strain. Savings plans were implemented. Hospital follow-ups were scheduled with precision. Even the father, now slowly regaining strength, contributed ideas and guidance. "We survived because we acted smart, not just because we were lucky," he said one evening. The son realized that survival wasn't enough. They needed stability. They needed a plan to prevent chaos from returning. Through it all, the family's bond grew stronger. They had survived accidents, medical crises, financial collapse, and the emotional toll of selling their home. "Life tried to break us," the son whispered one night, "but we are still here, stronger, wiser, and ready for what comes next." And yet, a lingering tension remained. Every new project, every decision, every financial move was underscored by the memory of past struggles. One mistake could reopen old wounds. Even when hope returns, fear lingers, a shadow of the battles you've fought and the sacrifices you've made. By the end of this chapter, the son had not only returned to his career, but had also learned how to balance ambition with responsibility. The father, observing his son's determination, smiled. "You've grown through fire. Your dreams and our family survived together. That's more than I ever hoped for." The mother nodded, proud yet relieved. They had rebuilt a semblance of normal life. But deep down, they knew life could test them again, and this time they would be ready.
Imagine finally getting the chance to follow your dreams, only to realize that life hasn't paused. Responsibilities, fear, and uncertainty still knock at your door. For the son, this was the new reality. His education loan, after months of applications, denials, and relentless follow-ups, had finally been approved. A door to the future was opening, but opening this door didn't mean the path ahead was easy. Hospital visits, family responsibilities, and financial recovery still demanded attention. The moment the bank finally approved the loan, he felt a wave of relief. Every call, every document, every visit to the bank had finally paid off. "This is it," he whispered to himself, "a chance to reclaim a part of my life that I almost lost." But the approval wasn't just a personal victory, it was a lifeline for the family. With structured repayment plans, he could pursue education while still supporting his father's recovery and managing household finances. Even with approval in hand, the fear lingered. What if something goes wrong again? What if a single mistake jeopardizes everything? He enrolled in the program he had always dreamed of, determined to make the most of this opportunity. Classes, online assignments, and exams became a new battlefield. Yet each study session was shadowed by guilt and worry. Hospital appointments interrupted lectures. Therapy sessions overlapped with deadlines. Balancing education and family responsibilities was a tightrope walk. Every day demanded discipline, focus, and mental resilience. To survive this phase, he developed strict routines: mornings for hospital visits and family care, afternoons for lectures and assignments, nights for budgeting, debt management, and planning the next day. It wasn't easy. Sleep was scarce, stress was constant. Mistakes could cost him academically or financially. Yet each small victory, completing an assignment, submitting a report on time, helping his father with therapy, kept him going. The real challenge wasn't just the workload, it was fear, guilt, and the constant worry that one slip could collapse everything they had rebuilt. The emotional burden was immense. Friends celebrated milestones, went on vacations, or advanced in careers, while he was juggling loans, hospital bills, and family care while keeping up with his studies. Some nights he would sit quietly in his room, overwhelmed by the weight of it all. Tears, frustration, and exhaustion threatened to break him. Yet each time he looked at his father and mother, he drew strength. Their trust, their love, and their reliance on him reminded him why he couldn't quit. Even when pursuing a dream, life reminds you responsibility doesn't end. Can one person truly manage family, health, and education without losing themselves? By the end of this chapter, the son had learned a crucial lesson. Ambition and responsibility can coexist, but only with focus, resilience, and relentless determination. His father, now stronger but still recovering, smiled proudly. "You've shown that even in chaos, dreams can survive and family can thrive." The mother nodded, a mix of pride and relief. The family had entered a new chapter, one where survival, education, and future dreams could coexist, but only if they remained united and vigilant.
Recovery isn't just about healing the body, it's about reclaiming control, regaining independence, and finding joy in moments that once seemed ordinary. For the father, each day brought a small victory. The stairs that once terrified him were now manageable. Simple tasks like cooking or walking to the garden became moments of pride. But recovery wasn't linear. Fatigue, pain, and fear lingered. Every misstep reminded him of his vulnerability. Yet with the son and mother by his side, he began to reclaim his independence, slowly, deliberately, carefully. He started with small routines, making breakfast, watering plants, or reading the newspaper. Each act was a test of strength, patience, and courage. "I can do this," he would mutter, pushing through aches and exhaustion. The family celebrated these moments quietly, a smile, a nod, a shared laugh. These were the first signs that life could return to something resembling normalcy.
Every small step forward carried the unspoken fear. One wrong move, one moment of weakness, and the past chaos could return. With the house sold and loans partially managed, the son and mother began planning for long-term stability. They set budgets, prioritized savings, and created contingency plans for unexpected medical or educational expenses. The father contributed ideas too, emphasizing caution and foresight. He said, "We can't live day to day anymore. We must prepare for the future, no matter how uncertain it seems." Together, they designed a system that balanced hospital bills, loan repayments, and daily expenses, a roadmap to regain control over their lives. Financial planning became a lifeline, but even the best-laid plans carry the weight of fear. Could they maintain stability in a world that had already tested them so harshly? Amid the stress and recovery, the family began to rediscover small joys. Shared meals, evening walks, and quiet conversations became precious. The father's laughter, once rare after the accident, returned in small doses. The mother felt relief seeing him regain confidence, and the son, balancing education and responsibilities, felt a renewed sense of purpose. These moments reminded them, survival isn't just about managing crises, it's about cherishing life's simple pleasures, even in the shadow of past struggles. But even in these happy moments, an undercurrent of anxiety remained. The family knew that life could throw new challenges at any time, and they had to be ready. By the end of this chapter, the father had regained a sense of independence, the family had structured financial plans, and small joys reminded them of the resilience they had cultivated together. The son looked at his parents and whispered, "We've survived the worst, and now we're building the rest, carefully, wisely, together." The father smiled, proud and calm. "This is more than survival, this is life, and we'll face it, as we always have, together."
Imagine carrying the weight of your family's survival on your shoulders, yet daring to dream again, daring to build a future from the ashes of past struggles. For the son, this was the moment of reckoning. Months of juggling hospital visits, education, finances, and family responsibilities had left him exhausted. Yet he was determined to reclaim his career and his future. Digital marketing had changed since he last worked full-time. New tools, trends, and platforms demanded constant learning. He took online courses, attended webinars, and practiced new techniques. Every late night and early morning became an investment in his comeback. "I can't afford to fall behind," he whispered. "I have to succeed, not just for me, but for all of us." His determination wasn't just about career growth. It was about reclaiming control over life itself. He started with small freelance projects, social media management, content creation, and ad campaigns. Each project tested his skills and patience. Deadlines overlapped with family responsibilities, and pressure mounted. But every success, every client satisfied, every campaign completed became a proof he could balance ambition and duty. Slowly, his reputation grew, and bigger opportunities began to appear. Every project was a gamble. One missed deadline, one dissatisfied client, and everything they had fought for could unravel. Even as his career flourished, he never lost sight of family responsibilities. Hospital appointments, therapy sessions, and household finances remained a priority. He scheduled his work meticulously. Mornings for family, afternoons for digital marketing projects, and evenings for learning new strategies. Exhaustion was constant, but every small win reinforced his resilience. Life demands balance, he thought. One without the other, and everything falls apart. Success feels sweet, but the shadow of past struggles reminds you one misstep and the delicate balance can collapse.
As projects grew, clients began to trust him with bigger campaigns and budgets. His skills were recognized and opportunities expanded beyond freelance work to consulting for small businesses. With each success, he earned not only money, but also confidence. Confidence that the sacrifices he had made were worth it. Even with success, fear lingered. Would he be able to maintain this balance? Could ambition coexist with responsibility without one consuming the other? By the end of this chapter, the son had carved a path for himself in digital marketing while maintaining responsibility for his family. The father, now much stronger, watched his son with pride. "You've turned struggle into strength and responsibility into opportunity. I couldn't be prouder." The mother, emotional yet relieved, added, "We survived the storm, and now we're watching our future bloom, thanks to you." The son smiled, exhausted but determined. They had survived, they had grown, and now they were ready to face whatever life had next, together.
Sometimes the smallest victories can feel like miracles. After months of struggle, exhaustion, and uncertainty, hope finally arrives like the first light after a storm. For the family, this moment came in the form of the father's long-awaited pension. After weeks of relentless follow-ups, paperwork, and calls to bureaucrats, the funds were finally released. The relief was overwhelming. It wasn't just about money, it was about stability, security, and a future they could plan without constant fear. The father sat at the kitchen table, staring at the pension approval notice. Tears filled his eyes. "All these months of struggle, finally some relief," he whispered. The son felt a surge of joy mixed with caution. He knew that while this money could solve many immediate problems, it wasn't endless. Careful planning was crucial to ensure that it lasted for medical expenses, daily life, and supporting his education. The relief was real, but the fear remained. Could this pension truly secure them, or was it just another fragile lifeline? With the pension, the family could breathe, but they didn't want to repeat past mistakes. They immediately created a detailed financial plan, prioritized hospital bills and therapy sessions, set aside funds for education loan repayments, build a small emergency fund, allocate a portion for daily expenses. Every dollar had a purpose. Every decision was deliberate. The lessons of the past months, credit card debt, missed payments, and financial chaos had taught them discipline and foresight. For the father, this was more than money. It was validation. The pension symbolized recognition for his years of hard work and service. For the son, it was a weight lifted off of his shoulders. He could now focus more on his studies and digital marketing projects without constant financial anxiety. The mother, too, felt a sense of calm she hadn't experienced in months. For the first time, the family could think about the future rather than just surviving each day. Even as relief settled, they couldn't ignore the scars of the past. Every victory was tempered by the memory of struggle, reminding them that life could test them again at any moment. With financial relief in hand, the family began to plan for long-term stability. Education was secured, medical care was manageable, and career opportunities were growing. They discussed future goals together: complete education without interruption, expand the son's digital marketing career, ensure the father's health continued to improve, rebuild savings for unforeseen emergencies. This planning marked a transition from survival to growth, from fear to confidence, and from crisis to hope. The storm had passed, but the horizon was still uncertain. Could they maintain this stability, or would new challenges test their resilience once more?
By the end of this chapter, the family had gained more than money. They had regained hope. The father, feeling stronger and proud, said, "This pension is not just funds, it's proof that we can survive, that perseverance pays off."
The son, reflecting on months of struggle and sacrifice, nodded. "We've survived the worst, and now we can finally start building the life we dreamed of." And with that, the family took their first steps into a new chapter, one where challenges still existed, but hope, planning, and unity were stronger than ever. Growth often comes quietly between moments of chaos and calm. It's not just about surviving life's storms, it's about learning, evolving, and finding strength you never knew existed. For the son, this chapter of life was about more than just education. It was about proving to himself that he could balance ambition, family, and responsibility without losing his identity or dreams. With the education loan in place and finances stabilized, he immersed himself in his studies. Assignments, projects, and exams demanded focus, but he had grown disciplined from months of struggle. Every lecture he attended, every report he submitted, and every exam he passed became a victory, proof that determination could overcome fatigue and adversity. "I am not just surviving, I am growing stronger every day." Even as progress unfolded, a shadow of doubt lingered. Could he maintain this momentum while family responsibilities still loomed large? Balancing education, digital marketing projects, and family care taught him resilience, time management, and emotional intelligence. He learned to prioritize effectively, communicate better with his parents, and make strategic decisions without letting fear dictate his actions. Each challenge he overcame added confidence and maturity, shaping him into a person capable of facing any future trials. The father's health continued to improve, but he still needed occasional support. The mother managed household tasks but relied on her son for critical financial decisions. Despite the demands, the son found a rhythm. He allocated mornings to family care, afternoons to academic work, and evenings to career projects. Life is a balancing act, but if you approach it strategically, you can grow in every dimension, academically, professionally, and personally. Even as balance was achieved, the fear of overextending himself never disappeared. One wrong step could jeopardize everything they had rebuilt. Successes came in small doses: high grades in courses, positive feedback from digital marketing clients, and the father regaining more independence every day. Each win became motivation to keep pushing forward. The family celebrated quietly: a shared dinner, a proud smile, or a simple acknowledgement of effort. These moments reinforced the truth that growth is cumulative, built on consistent effort and resilience, even amidst ongoing responsibilities. But even as they celebrated these small victories, they knew life could challenge them again. Could they sustain this growth, or would new obstacles test their strength once more? By the end of this chapter, the son had made significant progress in education, personal development, and professional growth, all while supporting his family. The father, observing his son, smiled warmly. "You've become stronger than I ever imagined. Your growth is our triumph." The mother nodded with pride. "We've weathered every storm, and now we're seeing the rewards. Together, we are unstoppable." The family had learned an invaluable lesson: that growth and responsibility can coexist when approached with determination, love, and strategy. After the longest storms, the sun finally breaks through. A family battered by fate, burdened by loss, and tested by relentless challenges now stands together,
stronger, wiser, and ready for a new beginning. For this family, the past months had been a journey through fear, pain, and uncertainty. Accidents, hospitalizations, financial chaos, and disrupted dreams had tested every ounce of their resilience. Yet here they were, alive, determined, and looking forward. With the father's pension finally approved, hospital bills managed, and the house sold, the family had a foundation of financial stability. Education loan repayment was structured. The son's academic progress was steady. Digital marketing projects provided consistent income. The father had regained independence. The mother managed the home with renewed energy. For the first time in years, the family felt in control of their life, no longer reacting to crises, but planning for growth. Even in stability, there is a quiet tension, a reminder that life can challenge you again at any moment. Could this new chapter remain unshaken? They created long-term plans to protect their progress. Emergency savings fund for medical or unexpected expenses. Education completion goals for the son. Investment in the son's career to ensure sustainable income. Health and wellness routines for the father. Debt-free living strategies to avoid financial stress. These measures weren't just practical, they were symbolic of the family reclaiming power over their lives. The trauma of the past months lingered, but small joys now became pillars of emotional recovery. Celebrating the son's academic achievements, the father cooking a family meal independently, evening walks and laughter around the dinner table, quiet moments of reflection, gratitude, and hope. The family had learned a profound truth. Survival was only the beginning. Healing and thriving came from love, resilience, and shared effort. Even in moments of happiness, the memory of struggle stayed alive. It reminded them that life is fragile, and the fight to protect your dreams never truly ends. The son now balanced studies, career, and family duties with confidence. The father, healthier and independent, contributed wisdom and guidance. The mother, proud and calm, became the glue holding the family together. Together, they planned for a future where education, career growth, and family well-being coexisted. "We've endured the worst," the father said one evening. "Now we get to live the best parts too." The son smiled. "We survived together, and now we'll thrive together. Nothing can take that away." The storms may return someday, but this family had discovered a strength beyond fear, beyond struggle. They had found hope, unity, and the courage to face anything. As the sun set over their neighborhood, the family sat together reflecting on the journey they had endured. Every challenge, every sacrifice, every sleepless night had led them to this moment. They had not only survived accidents, medical crises, financial turmoil, and disrupted dreams, but they had grown, bonded, and prepared for a future full of possibilities. "Life tested us," the mother whispered, "but it could never break us." The father nodded. "We have built something unshakable, together." And for the son, who had carried so much on his shoulders, it was a moment of quiet triumph. This is not just survival. This is life, lived fully, bravely, and with hope.